very odd. So we'll look at that. Silver run. Have you seen what's going on with the price of silver and gold? I started looking at the price of silver and gold last year. It was $25, $23, then $25, and people were like eyebrow raising because it went up so quickly to $25. And I thought that's interesting. And now it's almost 50. It's $46 this morning. And that's pretty incredible. That's a pretty bull run. It's very interesting. And some people are saying it's indicating the end of the fiat currency. And other people say, well, they're going to revalue the fiat currency. It's going to be, the value of it's going to be changed because they flooded the market with so much money and so on and so forth. And so like, that's probably not going to be good. That's probably not going to be a good thing. So people are hedging their bets with metal, and that's gold and silver, and the value of gold and silver. Gold's been on an unbelievable run for what, a year and a half now, and silver is joining in. So it's pretty crazy. Go get some ounces of silver. Liz May says it's a matter of life and death that the names be kept secret. But months ago, she said there were no names. That's where we're going to start. So that's pretty crazy stuff. Net zero. We've got old Yellow Teeth himself talking about net zero with Nate Erskine Smith, which is, I don't know. Kamala Harris is drunk at 3 p.m. Yes, she is. BC election day is today. Holy cow. Republicans are upset about the UK sending people to campaign for Kamala Harris, which is not surprising. And Doug Ford is fixing bike lanes retroactively. I've got a whole video talking about how bike lanes are the problem and the reason the traffic is terrible everywhere. I've been talking about how terrible traffic is in Guelph. They've closed more streets. It's random. It seems random. It doesn't seem random. It seems like they're randomly closing streets, but it seems like a very coordinated plan to make traffic as much of a headache as possible. And people, it doesn't seem like they're moving to fix it very quickly. Although the other part of this is if you import a whole bunch of people, more people than the infrastructure can handle, and infrastructure in this case is roads, then you get lots and lots of traffic. And bike lanes are one scapegoat that isn't actually addressing the problem. So I feel like this is another example of one of those situations where they could address the problem, but instead they're going to deal with bike lanes, right? So what's the problem? It's the increase of hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people into the country every quarter? It's crazy. Anyway, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got to start with Elizabeth May, and she's sending conflicting signals. It's very interesting. Paul Mitchell says, breaking, Green Party leader Elizabeth May says that revealing the foreign agents who are in Parliament could endanger people's lives. And in my opinion, any political party that wants to hide the identities of those MPs who betrayed Canada is totally unfit and a disgrace. Absolutely. You cannot shield a group of people from the consequences of being traitors to the country. It just doesn't work like that. That's insanity, right? And if they're trying to make a case that Pierre Poilievre is putting in danger Canada by calling for the names to be released, when the danger to Canada are the treasonous MPs who are sitting in Parliament trying to pass censorship laws. That's the danger to Canada. Andy Lee says Elizabeth May just a few months ago. So this is only 30 seconds. It seems kind of long. And one of the things that I really noted is the Mockingbird Media, the paid for Trudeau bought and utilized media, heavily edits everything. This is Elizabeth May talking about this, and the media gives you like, this is what she's going to say. And then she says it. And then the media cuts to another part and like, this is what she's going to say. So watch this. It's 30 seconds. It feels longer than 30 seconds. The end part is really the part I wanted you to pay attention to. So it's the part where she says, there is no list of names. She says very clearly, there is no list of names. And yesterday, she says, we have to keep the list of names secret. Here we go.
I found myself looking around at colleagues, wondering who could it be? Who would sell out this country?
Before she read it,
I would describe myself before reading the report as good and freaked out.
But she says she came away reassured.
I can say I have no worries about anyone in the House of Commons.
Her eyes and physicality after she makes that statement, if you're not watching, it's kind of worth it to watch what she's like. She kind of scans the room. It looks very, very guilty.
There is no list of MPs who have shown disloyalty to Canada.
No list. There is no list.
There is no list.
Okay? Very clear. There is no list. And here she says releasing the list would put people's lives in jeopardy. Here we go.
Colleagues, to understand, this isn't a game. This isn't politics. I'm not playing games here. I'm telling you how it is when you navigate with top secret security clearance, what you can say and what you can't say. We can't just say release all the names if we're operating in ignorance of the ongoing knock-on effects that could have in terms of endangering lives of intelligence assets of Canada. And I wrote each individual leader of all the parties.
So there are no names, but if we release the names, it could put people's lives at risk. Those two statements are at odds. Those two statements contradict each other.
In the House of Commons to please get top secret.
This is a pivot. This is her pivoting to saying Polyev not having top secret security clearance puts us in danger.
Individual
and
leader of all the parties in the House of Commons to please get top secret security clearance so we could meet as a group, as a unified force, and tell foreign powers, we're not giving you space here. We unify, we pull together, and for that, it would certainly be helpful if all the leaders of all the federal political parties obtained top secret security clearance.
Let me get this straight. Elizabeth May, Jugmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau know the names of the traitors in the House of Commons, and they're saying we all have to know the names of the traitors of the House of Commons so nobody else can know the names of the traitors of the House of Commons, so we all can tell those foreign powers we're not going to have any space for this, but we're not going to tell anybody the names of the traitors in the House of Commons because it might compromise Canadian security assets, intelligence assets. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever because, in my opinion, what should happen is if you're found to be helping a foreign power gain any kind of advantage over Canada, that's treasonous, and you shouldn't be in a cabinet position. You shouldn't be sitting in a party. You shouldn't probably be sitting in the House of Commons, and you should be investigated by probably not the RCMP at this point because it seems like they're compromised too. So I don't know how you'd fix that. Public tribunals that have teeth, maybe? I don't know. But fundamentally, shouldn't be in government, shouldn't be making decisions for anybody about anything because they're compromised, right? And if you know they're compromised and you do nothing about that, you are also compromised. So Elizabeth May, here's their official statement, October 17th. Green Party leader responds to the leader of the official opposition on foreign interference. And it says, I read with alarm the statement released by Pierre Poilievre on October 16th. Quote, my message to Justin Trudeau is release the names of all MPs that have collaborated with foreign interference. It may well be that because he has refused to undertake the process of obtaining top secret security clearance, he is unaware that he is asking the Prime Minister to violate the Foreign Interference and Security of Information Act. I was clearly informed by Canada's security agencies that elements of what I read in the unredacted report of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians could not be shared at all without placing at risk Canada's intelligence gathering. In fact, even details such as the precise number of MPs who fell into the category of witting or semi-witting potential or current actors of foreign interference could place the Canadian Security Intelligence Service at risk. Put bluntly, it could endanger people's lives. What about the integrity of our government, right? Like people's lives, if they endangered their lives to help a foreign power gain an advantage over Canada, then, boo-hoo, guess you should go to jail then, right? Really safe in jail. Andy survived, so you could probably survive. And like, I'm not saying that you're innocent like Andy was, right? But you're all innocent in Shawshank. But fundamentally, if there's evidence that you're witting or semi-witting and you allowed it to happen because you liked your job, you should probably lose your job and probably have to defend yourself against treason charges. And like, I'm not convicting anybody, right? If you're innocent, prove it. And if you're not, well, time for jail, right? And like, so I don't understand this. It might put lives at risk. People have already put lives at risk. That's already happened, Elizabeth May. Back to this. The only way for Canadians to know that the official opposition has not been compromised through foreign interference is for its leader to seek and obtain top secret security clearance. So this is a pivot. I've urged him to do so since June 24. With greater urgency, I urge him to do so now. Pierre Poilievre is the only person in a position to clear the air about the Conservative Party and any potential favors owed to foreign interests. Clumsy. It's clumsy. It's very, very clumsy. We have CSIS leaks. We have bombshell evidence that we have at least 11 and up to 13 now traitors in the government, and even more outside. That's just in the Toronto area. And so like, and she's saying the Conservatives really have to clear the air about this. Nope. The whole government is under a shroud of suspicion because we don't have the names. So because in absence of the names, all are guilty, right? Like it is one of those situations. And I don't know how there are so many people encouraged about Pierre Poilievre and like giving him a supermajority, sure, it'll kick Justin Trudeau out, but I don't think that it gets to the bottom of anything really, right? And so realistically, it should be a caretaker government to get to the bottom of what's going on and to fix the laws and to end the foreign welfare that we're putting up, both domestically and just shelling money out to like Ukraine and stuff. And I've got news about that as well. Back to foreign interference. Naya says, release the names. The criminal code has an article that excuses the release of confidential information under the Secrets Act if it's in the public interest. Treason in Parliament is in the public interest. Allowing it to continue is subverting our charter rights. And so she's got the screenshot of the criminal code here, and I'm not going to go through it because it's accurate. I think that she's right. And I think that Michael Chong, I think, has done the briefing. He's got the NSICOP briefing. And there are others. Somebody said Poilievre's chief of staff has also done the briefing. If that's true, and Poilievre and whoever else look at this and agree, and I wouldn't ask for permission. Like, we're going to release this on this legal blah on the floor of the House of Commons, because on the floor of the House of Commons, they're legally protected to say anything, basically. And so if they release it on the floor of the House under this law, that'll be an interesting situation. Or even it'll be even more interesting if they release it not on the floor of the House of Commons, but somewhere where they don't have protected speech, and see if the RCMP arrest whoever released it for breaching top secret information, and see if this law holds, right? Because like other laws of ours have not held, right? Some people get charged for mischief and are facing 10 years, and other people drive over people and, well, in a poetic turn of events, get run over while biking. But still, right? Like no jail time, no justice on that, really. Karma, but no justice, right? So very interesting stuff going on. Here's Jugmeet Singh talking about, yeah, we could release the names. And like, again, these guys were the people who were saying, no, we don't need to release the names. Everything's fine. Apparently not so fine. Here we go.
You said that you want the names of parliamentarians that the Prime Minister has said engaged or were victims of foreign interference to be released publicly, which is something that the Conservative leader is also calling for. Can you just clarify, is that what you're asking for, to waive the security clearance on this and just make these names public?
Well, I've taken a different approach. I think that there is a very serious national security concern, which I respect, both of people that are involved, that work for Canada, that do important work, that we don't want their names to be inadvertently disclosed or their identities to be disclosed. Also, our methodologies. I believe there must be a way for us to be able to release that information while protecting those items. And so I have said, yes, we should be able to release the names while respecting and protecting that information.
You said that...
Okay, sure. I don't know how you can release the names while keeping a shroud of secrecy around other people who may have been involved. Like, releasing the names implies an investigation. Releasing the names isn't like, okay, here's your list of names. Now we're going to go back and pass 263 and 293 and all the rest of these censorship laws and stuff. Telling us the names of the traitors triggers a confidence vote and an election, because if you know the names of the traitors, you want to remove them from the government. Like, that's the next step, right? It's a checkmate move for this government anyway. It's done, right? Like, you can't have releasing the names and then carry on as business as usual. Those two things are at odds, which is why they're fighting to keep the names hidden, because as soon as those names are released, because it's going to include the Prime Minister, it's done. The whole thing's done. Confidence can't remain in the House. It can't, right? And so that's my prediction. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Here's Jugmeet Singh saying, a leader's got to stand up for his country in a very laughable, hypocritical thing. And Ryan says, said by the most self-serving leader of the NDP, hypocrisy abounds. Here we go.
And that should be the priority. A leader should have in their mind the utmost and most important thing is country first. Protecting our country, protecting Canadians. And
unbelievable. Is that a Rolex on your wrist? Protecting Canadians. He's importing Canadians. Honestly. Unbelievable. He's importing foreigners and then allowing them to have permanent residence and all sorts of other things. And the entire structure of the country is changing. Watch Mocha's reporting on the Khalistani movement out where he is. Holy cow, is all I can say, right? Lee Humphreys is responding to Jugmeet Singh. Jugmeet Singh says Pierre Poilievre must put our country before his party. Poilievre's refusal to seek security clearance continues to put Canadians and Canadian democracy at risk. He's a risk to our democracy for not reading this binding agreement that says he can't talk about it anymore. And Lee says, Dear Jugmeet Singh, you obtained this special enhanced clearance and claim to have read the unredacted NSICOP report and have been briefed on the source material. So exactly how has that benefited the public? It hasn't. It hasn't at all. Good question, Lee, right? And good job. It's interesting when arguments are made by politicians that are easily destroyed like that. Well done. Laura Lynn says, all Poilievre has to do is what Trudeau has done, refuse to cooperate with the RCMP. If a CPC member releases the names, the RCMP have shown they have no investigative powers when it comes to politicians. Here is an RCMP, I don't know which RCMP person this is, but high ranking, presumably. He's on CBS with Rosie here, and they're talking about what happens if the Conservatives release the names. Just what happens if they do that? Here we go.
What is your understanding then if someone, if an MP got up inside the House of Commons under parliamentary privilege and decided to reveal this information? What's your understanding of what your role would be as Commissioner of the RCMP? You couldn't do anything, or you could do something?
Well, I'm inclined to say that would be a challenge for us. If it was out in the public domain, it'd be different because you're disclosing top secret information, secret information. Let's hope we don't have to cross that that road.
What is?
It seems like there was a message that got sent out that said, "Don't you dare release it." Right? What will we do? Oh, well, we're not sure yet, but we'll do something. We'll respond. Right? Here's Dancho, and she's saying release the names. She's making the argument. Well, there's a 5-minute long clip. This is 2.5 minutes. So here's the 5-minute. Oh wait, no, this is the first one was the 5-minute long clip. This is the shorter one. And she's saying that the only person whose responsibility it falls at is Justin Trudeau to release these names, and he should release these names. So I'll play a minute of this if you want to hear more. There's links in the description. Here we go.
Minister Justin Trudeau for 9 years. So what does that say about his leadership or lack thereof? And I would also point out that the person in this country most responsible for foreign interference and preventing it and keeping national security safe is the Prime Minister of Canada. And so if we've had the same Prime Minister of Canada, and now this has come to such a point that 13 individuals, the RCMP had to announce 13 individuals are in peril because foreign interference has gotten so bad, what does that really say about his leadership? So what's interesting to me is that in the foreign interference inquiry, which he's made a farce of with his recent partisan attacks, that he's really trying to do two things. Number one, distract from his failed record to prevent foreign interference in this country. The fact that he's created an environment that's worse than ever at any time in Canadian history of foreign interference, that other foreign adversaries and others feel that we are a weak country, that they can bully under Prime Minister Trudeau's so-called leadership. And the second thing, of course, Mr. Chair, is that the Prime Minister is trying to distract from the fact that he has an ongoing revolt in his caucus looking to overthrow him. So it's no wonder why he's doing this, but certainly if he continues, as my colleague said, to weaponize this, then he should release the names, because Canadians deserve to know who it is in Parliament right now or in the past who has been undermining the national interest on purpose to aid a foreign country. They absolutely deserve to know that. And those.
So there we go. Right. I agree with most of what she said there. So, yep. No says Jordan Peterson says that he's mulling legal action against Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau accused Peterson the other day when he was testifying at the foreign interference inquiry that Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson were both influenced by Russian money, and Jordan Peterson has been sharing memes of himself wearing Russian hats and talking about how he was unaware that he was a Russian stooge, and or that any Russians had given him money, that Justin Trudeau should provide evidence to that end. And we'll see, right? And I think Justin Trudeau's argument was through the Daily Wire. There was something through the Daily Wire and Lauren Chen, et cetera, et cetera. And like the Daily Wire was a part of it, or some of the talent from the Daily Wire was part of it, but I don't remember Jordan Peterson being part of that list of names. Weird that a list of names can lead to the attacks against Jordan Peterson from Justin Trudeau, but we can't have a list of names for our parliamentarians, right, who are committing treason against us. Because, people might get upset and, lives would be at risk. Don't you know? Lives. Mutiny on the SS Justin Trudeau. And if you don't know the mutiny on the Bounty, Captain Bligh was a particularly mean guy, I guess, and Fletcher Christian led the mutiny against him, and then they went off to an island and married some island women, I guess, and stayed there for a while. And I think they went back to England after a while as well. And anyway, I think the mutiny that's ongoing in the party is kind of weak. And Mark Miller says it's kind of weak because they should just be willing to cross the floor. If they really mean it, they'll cross the floor. We'll see if after they deliver the letter and Justin Trudeau says no, if they cross the floor. But at this point in time, it's a dissatisfaction and I think more of a distraction for people like pundits, right? Like, oh, what's going to happen? And I think not much. If all they're willing to do is a letter, there's a lot of them. There seems to be a lot of them. But here's Mohammed, and he says, breaking, I'm told that 47 Liberal MPs have signed on to remove Justin Trudeau as leader of the Liberal caucus and Prime Minister. To those 47, you have my respect and support. My message to Liberal MPs who are nervous to sign on, the era of Trudeau is over. And he says, what the Liberal Party will always be bigger than one person. I don't know. History will treat those who saved our party and country from Pierre Poilievre with the highest reward, those who allow cowardice to drive our party to the dustbins of electoral history. So he's a Liberal trying to save the Liberal Party. It's pretty funny. I don't think that history is going to be kind to the Liberal Party, and I don't think that the Liberal Party is bigger than one person. Kathleen Wynne destroyed the Liberal Party in Ontario, and it's not back yet. I don't see any real kind of restoration in the wings. What's her name? Bonnie Crombie. I think she's the current leader, and she's terrible. And I mean, the polls are putting them 50-50, but I don't think that's true. A lot of people are not interested in voting Liberal, especially because federally the Liberals are so terrible as well. But 47 is the highest number of Liberal MPs that I've heard who have signed this letter. I guess we'll find out soon. Here is Chrystia Freeland being asked about that. She does not respond. She answers the question she wants to answer and not the question she's asked, which is what the Liberals do. It's the Liberal tap dance. That's what I call it. And so she's asked about the caucus revolt, and she talks about all the helpers who are helping all the kids here and feeding all the kids. Here we go.
Hi, good morning. Joseph Bernanke, CTV Winnipeg, Deputy Prime Minister Freeland. Thank you for your time this morning. We saw 4 cabinet ministers announce they will not be seeking re-election. What does this convey to Canadians as the party continues to face some lagging polls?
Okay, I do want to start by saying something I should have said at the outset that Tracy reminded me needed to be said, and that is really to put the spotlight on the people who work in our amazing schools and do the amazing work to teach and feed our kids. So I do want to give a shout out to Elaine.
So totally ignored the question. She's talking about the principal and then the whole, right up to the end.
I want to say, I recognize you. I thank you, Tracy. Thank you for showing us the way there.
So your party's struggling and the polls are showing that you're going to be thrown out on your keisters, and you've got cabinet ministers who aren't running for re-election. Could you comment? Oh, did you guys hear about the principal? These people work so hard here. Wab Canoes, big smile, big forced smile. And also I found it funny, the look on her face when it was apparent that the question was for her and it was about the lagging polls. It looked like she had sucked a lemon. Right, right at that point, the smile went from a genuine smile when she was cozying up to the big guy here to I've just sucked a lemon because these people are wanting to talk about what's actually going on in the politics of the country, right? So interesting stuff from Chrystia Freeland. Lori Goldstein says, wowza, Eddie Goldenberg, who is John Chrétien's aide, doesn't do this without John Chrétien's okay. No time to waste. John Chrétien's former right-hand man asks Justin Trudeau to step down. That's super interesting, don't you think? Justin Trudeau's right-hand man. Here's the National Post. And the argument is that he would be better positioned to stave off a Quebec separation or independence situation from a position of Quebec leadership rather than a weak position of a hated prime minister, is basically the argument here. One of Jean Chrétien's closest advisors is making the case for Justin Trudeau to step down as prime minister to embrace a bigger cause, the unity of his country. Eddie Goldenberg, who was Chrétien's right-hand man for decades and served as a chief of staff and senior policy advisor during his years in power, penned a piece called Justin Trudeau's Obligation to Canada on Friday, in which he argues that an undefeated Trudeau could be more useful in leading the fight against separatists in Quebec. The question for Prime Minister Trudeau is whether he is more valuable leading the Liberal Party to an almost certain defeat, or whether he should do all he can to be in a strong position to be available to take a leading role in speaking up for Canada in a possible Quebec independence referendum. So there you go. I personally think that the damage done to this country by the seemingly compromised, seemingly Chinese communist leadership needs to be met with, I don't know, arrests, perp walks, consequences, accountability. You don't shut down our economy and give away billions of dollars for foreign wars and then just walk off into the sunset to stave off Quebec separatism. Come on, give me a break, right? Like, I think that we should have questions answered. I think there should be accountability. People should be held to task for the damage they've caused, right? Like Jeepers Creepers. Lori Goldstein says, inside the slow, super polite revolt against Justin Trudeau, no one is out to humiliate the Prime Minister. Wah, wah. Says one lawmaker trying to persuade Canada's Prime Minister to resign as Liberal leader. The only way they're going to get him to do anything they want him to do. When Jody Wilson-Raybould walked in and said, I know the truth about you, and he said, you're out of a job, she thought the truth was going to win. These people think that their genuine belief that he'd be better, the party would be better served with you stepping down, sir. When he says no, their recourse is, okay, and they go back to being quiet about it. And that's it, right? Like, or they cross the floor. So we'll see if any of them have any kind of fortitude at all whatsoever. Here's CBC Watcher. Immigration Minister calls the attempt to oust Prime Minister passive aggressive and weak. I tend to agree. Like, what happens when 47 beta men and women get around in a group and they don't like what's going on, but they don't really want to speak out about it because they don't like conflict, right? Like, we'll write a letter and hopefully he doesn't get mad about the letter. Like, it's pretty weak. It's pretty weak. Liberal caucus risks sleepwalking into a Conservative win. I don't believe polls. I think we're in a handoff situation where the Liberals are being handed off and to the Conservatives. And they're all going to take us to the same destination. It's just a different vehicle, right? But we're going to still be taxed and all the rest, carbon taxes and all the rest of it, or a different vehicle, but the same outcome for carbon tax or carbon fees or whatever the heck it is that they're going to come up with. And so I think it's a handoff. I don't think that there's legitimacy in the polls that we view. However, all of the polls that we view are leading the public to believe that the Liberals are down to 23 seats and the Bloc have a good chance of becoming the official opposition at this point in time. And the Conservatives are looking at a supermajority. And so, like, whether the polls are fake or it's a handoff from the media or whatever it is that is indicating that the public is completely lost confidence in this Liberal government, this Liberal NDP Bloc government, and has moved over to this, seems like that's the movement that's going on. And these people aren't going to win with Trudeau or not, right? Like, so it seems very strange, but this is a weird way to behave from a caucus of adults, right? In my opinion. Molly says, fixed it for you. So today is the BC election, and this should actually be in the BC election section. So we'll just leave it there and we'll jump back. Let's talk about money and the waste that we have to endure in our government. The United States is talking about hiring Elon Musk to be the government efficiency manager. There's, like, sure, the United Kingdom, and even in Canada too, used to have a check and balance, like a person, an exchequer, basically, who had a check and balance on the spending of Parliament to make sure that they weren't getting, like, completely out of sorts. Like, if you have a $10,000 credit card balance and you start spending $40 or $50 or $60,000, you should have the power to, like, stop that, right? But sometimes there's, well, I mean, the credit card company is going to say, like, stop. You know what I mean? Maybe if they think that you're not going to pay. But in the government, there doesn't seem to be, they kind of got rid of it in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They kind of, in the United Kingdom, they got rid of it. And I think even in Canada, there were specific situations, and I'm reading a book about it. Above the Law is the name of the book, about a Canadian policeman named Starmer and kind of the weird ways that crime and government go hand in glove. But part of it is that one of the overseers, it was the Hamilton Harbor, I think it was the Harbor investigation. But in order to gain control of the harbor, they kind of sidelined the person whose job it was to oversee the spending, to make sure that the spending didn't get too out out of sorts. And then Parliament was just like, yeah, we like this. We're not going to restore this whole thing. And I think it was probably, I don't know that it was an all of Parliament thing, but there was certainly checks and balances on some of the spending. And now it's just like all bets are off. You can spend whatever the heck you want. And so the people in power have figured out how to game that system and give kickbacks to all their buddies. And like we saw that all through COVID, and we're seeing it all now. Anyway, Concerned Canadian says, no surprise given Trudeau Freeland penchant for excessive spending. New PBO report is projecting the deficit to be $7 billion higher. Yesterday I had percentages, and so it was supposed to be $40 billion, the deficit or the budget. Which one was it? Spending deficit. It was supposed to be $40 billion. That was the projected one, and it's been missed by $7 billion. But yesterday I just had the percentages. I like having a dollar value because it's more relatable. Although $7 billion is not really a relatable number. You know what I mean? Like, not really at all. Maxime Bernier says, after going up all year, gold reached another record high today, while silver shot up. What it really means is that government-controlled money is losing value at an accelerated pace, in part because of budget deficits spinning out of control, which will force central banks to print massive amounts of dollars, euros, and yen to buy government debt and prevent the debt market from collapsing. If you still don't get what this means, governments are funding themselves by indirectly stealing your purchasing power through inflation instead of directly taking your money through taxes. Also, the BRICS summit in Kazan starts in 3 days. De-dollarization and a new financial infrastructure where gold will likely play a role will be discussed. Emerging countries are fed up importing inflation from the United States and helping fund American imperial wars by using the dollar. Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. Gold and silver, which had been real money for millennia until the 20th century, when governments replaced them with their funny money, created out of thin air to pay for world wars and unsustainable welfare state programs, are coming back on the scene. Yep, get your gold and get your silver from the post office. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who was telling me, have you seen how much silver's gone up? And I was like, man, last I looked, it was like 25. He's like, it's 43 and then 46 now. So crazy, man. Good time to get in. $20 ago. Damn. I got a couple of ounces, but not nearly as much as I should have. Double it? Come on. That's amazing. Clint says gold and silver on a major bull run, and Berkshire Hathaway is aggressively exiting much of their U.S. banking stock holdings. To me, this indicates a significant economic turbulence ahead. Just a heads up. So do you own stocks? Concerned Canadian says Defense Minister announces nearly $65 million in aid to Ukraine. Why? Why indeed? I thought that we'd only spent less than $10 billion in Ukraine. Do you know that according to City News, we spent almost $20 billion in Ukraine? Crazy. So here's part of this story. Canada has committed more than $19.5 billion in support to Ukraine since Russia's invasion in February 2022. That includes the $500 million promised by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the NATO summit in July. The money Blair announced Friday comes out of that July commitment. The announcement's weird then. Like if you've already committed $500 million and then a couple of months later you're like, oh, here's $65 million. That would be confusing unless you understood like we're releasing $65 million of that $500 million we promised earlier this month, right? Like the headline seems off. Anyway, the money Blair announced Friday comes out of that commitment, of which more than $50 million will help buy arms, ammunition, and military drones, as well as uniforms and personal protective equipment for Ukrainian soldiers. Who needs to use Canadian tax dollars in Canada? No, we need to buy PPE and military uniforms for the Ukrainians. That's a real good use of Canadian tax dollars. Yikes. Today is the BC election, and I meant this to be in the main show, so it'll be in the main show, but I thought it was going to be at the start. Anyway, today's the BC election, and so get out and vote. And Molly says, fixed it for you, EB. You lost this lifetime NDP voter who knows your awful policies hurt women, kids, and the vulnerable. I voted Conservative because I want sanity and safety again. So Times columnist says, Dave Eby, nothing for you, but more of the same misery. So the Dave Eby crew wants to continue the destruction. What destruction, you ask? Here's a tent city. And the Buckywell says, Dave Eby's housing solution taken 2 Fridays ago in Coquitlam on Gordon Ave, across from Mike Farnsworth, BC's office. Shame. And these are tent cities. This is intolerable. Anybody who is having an election, this should be one of the main points. Canada did not have tent cities. You came to power, and now Canada has tent cities. You're the problem. You're the problem. Your policies, you. Tent after tent after tent after tent. Unbelievable. It's a 22-second video, and we didn't watch the whole thing, and it's just as far as the eye can see, right? It's unbelievable. Odessa says, redoing this post about what just took place under the BC NDP government's forced SOGI plan for schools. The school is on Vancouver Island. I just spoke to a mother from this location. Some parents are not happy at all. Same with some children. Two of the children said they were very uncomfortable when the presenter started talking to them about maps and male-on-male porn. The uncomfortable kids asked if they could leave the class, and the teacher said no and made them listen to the male-on-male porn teachings. I have told my children, and I tell any children that I'm in charge of, you don't have to ask permission to leave any room at school. You are a sovereign individual, and even if the teacher says you're not allowed to leave, in fact, especially if the teacher says that you're not allowed to leave, that's when you leave and you come and you get me. You go to the office and you tell them that you want to call me. You tell them you're sick. You tell them you're going to throw up on them. Whatever you want to do, but you call me the second they tell you you can't, because I want to know about that. And so, and if you want to leave a room, you leave a room and you get up and walk out, and you don't have to ask anybody for any reason whatsoever. If they have a problem with it, they can call me. And when they call me, what am I going to say? Right. And so that's how I prep my kids, and any kids that I'm in charge of, because they need to know that they have the authority to say no to anything like that. No, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this crap. Are you kidding me? I'm going to leave now. Bye-bye. And if they know they're not going to get in trouble at home, then the teacher has no power, right? I'm going to get you in trouble. Well, and if the teachers go to abuse them in class as retribution, then I'm going to be in the class. You're not going to win here, teacher. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.